Hi everyone. In this video tutorial, I will try to teach you how to properly fly GLF550 by AKD Studio from start to finish, including how to start aircraft using ground power unit, how to use MCDU, and how to properly use autopilot. Today, we will do a full flight from Warsaw Modlin Airport in Poland to Budapest Airport in Hungary, on board GLF550 by AKD Studio. Don't worry, the tutorial for GLF650, it's already available on our YouTube channel, so you can watch that video also if you want. Before we start, I also recommend using the MFD checklist page that can help you with all the procedures. Now let's get on the plane and start flying. We are now in the cold and dark mode, and first thing first, you need to make sure that all static elements are removed. To do this, go to EFB, select Ground Services, and select Static Elements page. Here you can remove all static elements. If you forget to do this, you will have problems with the landing gear and with altitude and speed indications. Therefore, it is very important to remember about this. It is also worth making sure that the correct Simbrief Pilot ID is entered in the settings. This will be important if we want to use Simbrief Flight Plan Downloader function in MCDU and EFB. Let's also connect Ground Power Unit using EFB Ground page. Also, now we can download our flight plan from Simbrief servers and then start refueling the airplane in the EFB. Also, in EFB Flight Plan page, you can also check your meter. Also, you can print this meter in the onboard printer. The startup process will begin by switching the emergency power to ARM mode. We can observe that some systems are starting up and performing self-tests. Now we can select left and right batteries, and now you can start APU or select on-ground power unit. Today, we will use ground power unit. Next, we can turn on our displays by using those four knobs. Then we need to arm the AUX hydraulic pump and PTU. We can also select nav lights. Then we can perform all the tests on the overhead panel. Remember that if you are starting the airplane using APU power, you need to perform the APU fire test before starting the APU. Now it's also a good idea to set all altimeters to the local pressure. Now we can turn on all the IRS systems. Plus, it's a perfect time to set up our weather radar. To use weather radar, you need to set standby mode, and then wait 90 seconds until the standby information shows up on the map page. Then before takeoff, we can set it to WX mode and select option radar on the map page. We can now begin programming the MCDU, the flight plan, and all the required performance data. To insert the flight plan, you can either use the Simbrief integration in the MCDU to download it directly from the servers or input the flight plan manually. Let's go with the easier method first and use the Simbrief integration in the MCDU. In a moment, I will also show you how to enter the same flight plan manually. MCDU programming starts with selecting a position. We have 3 to choose from: the last saved position, the position of the nearest airport, and the position from GPS. I will select the position from GPS. Then we can go to the flight plan page. On the flight plan page, you need to navigate to the datalink flight plan page. Then, insert the flight plan number, which can be found on the EFB flight plan page. Once entered, select Send Request. After approximately 7 seconds, your flight plan will be ready, and you can load it into your active flight plan. Now, let's reset the MCDU by re-entering the destination and manually inputting the flight plan. Start by entering your destination airport. Once the destination has been added to the inactive flight plan, a field labeled via dot becomes available for adding waypoints, coordinates, airways, and more. To insert en route waypoints, enter the waypoint identifier into the scratch pad and select the corresponding line next to the VIA.2 field. The waypoint will then be added to the active flight plan, and the VIA.2 prompt will move down, ready to accept the next input. For example, after the EVINA waypoint, the next entry in the flight plan is an airway. To insert the airway, the correct format is airway.waypoint. Type M66.BABKO into the scratch pad and line select it to the VIA.TO field. After entering your entire flight plan, don't forget to close it. You can close the flight plan by selecting the destination from the scratch pad and inserting it into the VIA.TO field. If you forget to close your flight plan, the VNAV will not be available. Okay, now we can add our departure procedure. First, we need to click the departure option on the flight plan page. Then the only thing to do is simply select the runaway and SID procedure. Activate, and we are done. Also, now if you want, you can select the arrival procedure or just do this during the flight. Today, I will do this during the flight. To review your flight plan, use the map page on the display controller. Select the North mode, line select key 3 left to enable plan mode, and use the Prev. Line select key 2 left, and next. Line select key 2 right. Buttons on the display controller to scroll through your waypoints individually. You can also use 4 on-screen arrow buttons on the MFD map page that can change the position of the map screen as you can see now. To center the map to position of the plane, click the Aircraft Center button on top of the screen. Refueling is now completed. We can see the load sheet in the cockpit that we can use to insert data to MCDU, or we can just remove this load sheet from the cockpit. Okay, we can start our performance calculations in MCDU. Let's start from page perf init page. First page displays the current speed schedules. To change any speeds, input the calibrated airspeed KS/Mach data into the scratch pad and line select it to the speed mode. Speeds and restriction limits are set using the departure and approach page. The data is used to compute FMS speed commands during approach and departure. We will keep all the default. The third page of the Performance Init page contains the step climb increment that is used for performance planning, fuel reserve, and taxi fuel before takeoff and after landing. The fourth page of the Performance Init page contains the following: transition altitude, speed altitude limit, initial cruise altitude, ISA deviation, cruise winds. The fifth page contains passenger and cargo weights that are entered to calculate gross weight. When performance initialization is complete, the Confirm init prompt is displayed in the lower right corner of this page. The Confirm init line select key must be pushed to initiate the calculation of performance data. Now we can set the navigation source to FMS1. As selecting FMS1 is required to use LNAV and follow the route by plane. We can also arm LNAV and VNAV on MCP and set up heading and altitude for departure. After confirming your perf init, if you need to change any values on the perf init pages, you must use the what if pages. Note that what if pages are only available on the GLF550. On the GLF650, you can make changes directly on the perf init pages, even after confirming them. Also, now it is a perfect time to do takeoff performance calculations. To do this, you can use MCDU or just use EFB and send data to MCDU. I will also set up my map page. We can turn on airports to be displayed on map. Now we can continue preparation for the departure on the overhead panel. We can turn on masters, so the galley and cabin power. Let's now start the APU. First, you need to turn on left main fuel pump, then select APU master switch, and wait about 12 seconds. In this time, APU inlet door will be opening on the back of the airplane. After that, the ready lamp will appear and you can start APU by selecting the start switch. We can turn on APU generator and turn off GPU generator, and also disconnect the ground power unit and remove chocks in EFB. We can turn on APU bleed and isolation valve also now. Now we can invite passengers on board by starting boarding using EFB. We are now ready for the engine start procedure. Let's first check position of the gust lock. A gust lock on an aircraft is a mechanism that locks control surfaces. Turn on the fuel pump, select the beacon light on, and start a safety demonstration for our passengers. To start engines, we first need to turn on master start switch on, and then start right engine first, then left. At exactly 25% of N2, we can turn on fuel to engines. Okay, engine started. Now we can perform the after start procedure. Let's turn on the rest of the fuel pumps to on. Turn on all anti-ice systems. We can also turn on engines bleeds and turn off APU bleed and isolation valve. Let's shut down the APU by selecting APU stop switch. When the APU N1 drops below 10%, we can turn off the APU master switch. Also, let's check our flight controls, spoilers, and ground spoilers. Okay, we are ready. Now we can turn on taxi lights and start taxi procedure. During the taxi, we can arm auto-throttle takeoff mode. We can do this in 3 different methods. 1, we can use button on throttle. 2, we can use hidden click spot on MCP panel. 3, we can use custom command that we can assign to our throttle, for example. Okay, we are ready for takeoff. Let's turn on landing lights and strobe light and line up on the runway. Now we are ready, let's put some power to the engines and let's turn on auto throttle on. That will engage TOGA. And we are in the air. We can engage autopilot and enjoy our departure. Also, I set the initial altitude to 4,000 feet on the MCP, so aircraft will level off at 4,000 feet. But we can now increase altitude to our cruise level and continue our climbing procedure. Aircraft is now flying in FMS speed mode. If you want to override the FMS speed and manually control speed, the only thing to do is to select the button under the speed window on the MCP. Now, I will show you how to perform a direct-to-waypoint in the MCDU. All you need to do is navigate to the DIR page and select the waypoint you want to go directly to. If the waypoint is not in the flight plan, enter the waypoint identifier into the scratch pad and press Line Select key 1 left. During a flight, deviations can occur from the expected route due to factors such as weather, traffic, and ATC instructions. Sometimes there is a need to add a new waypoint to the plan. To add a new waypoint into the flight plan, just enter the waypoint identifier into the scratch pad and select the corresponding line next to the line where you want to add this waypoint. Now let's say we want to delete a waypoint from the flight plan. To do this, go to the flight plan page, press the delete button, and then press the line select key next to the waypoint you wish to remove. If you want to add a holding pattern to the flight plan, navigate to Nav Index page 1 and select Patterns, and select the waypoint you want to do a holding pattern. When Activate is selected, the holding pattern is entered into the active flight plan. To clear the hold, press the LSK adjacent to the Clear prompt. When Clear is selected, the FMS does not insert the holding pattern into the active flight plan. After a holding pattern is activated, the holding pattern page changes to include a delete prompt. Selecting the delete prompt will cancel the holding pattern and remove it from the active flight plan. Okay, we are slowly approaching our top of descent point, making it the perfect time to insert the arrival procedure into the MCDU. The arrival page allows you to select a runway, an approach, and a star. Once selected, we can insert the procedure into the flight plan by clicking Activate. Additionally, we can review the procedure on the ND map page. Now I will perform some landing calculations. There are two methods for this, using the MCDU landing performance init page. Or the EFB Performance page. Now it's perfect time to explain to you the ILS Autotune system. The ILS Autotune automatically loads the correct nav frequency for the approach you selected in the MCDU, and it can automatically switch from LNAV to localizer mode. So if we select the ILS approach procedure in MCDU, aircraft will automatically, about 50 miles before the airport, tune the correct ILS frequency and course for the selected runway. Of course, we can also disable the ILS Autotune in the MCDU radio page and manually set the correct ILS frequency and course for the selected runway. To set the correct course without changing the nav source, if we are an FMS1 nav source, just use Preview mode. That mode will show you in a small window course for NAV1 or NAV2 source. The ILS Autotune includes a feature which will automatically switch from FMS1 nav source to NAV1 or NAV2. Switching will disengage VNAV and engage vertical speed mode, with glide slope armed. I will show you everything in the second. Let's also set the decision altitude for our selected approach procedure. You can do this on the flight ref page of the display controller. Select the Baro line select key. Use the Set knob to adjust the decision altitude, and then press the Baro key again to confirm the altitude. Now we are approaching top of descend. To start descend automatically in VNAV mode, simply lower the altitude on the MCP, and aircraft will start descending automatically. We are now about 50 miles from the airport. The ILS Autotune has automatically set the correct course and ILS frequency, and it has also activated the preview mode on NAV1. Of course, you can verify everything against your airport chart to ensure that all settings are correct and that we are fully prepared for the approach. Remember, the Autotune feature works only for ILS approaches, and only if the ILS approach has been selected in your MCDU. Now we are almost turning to align with the runway. In this stage, we can select approach mode to arm, because thanks to ILS Autotune, we have all the correct ILS frequencies, courses, and also our preview mode is selected to NAV1. The automatic switch from FMS1 to NAV1 can happen only if the following conditions are met. 1. Preview NAV1 or Preview NAV2 have been selected by the pilot or by the ILS Autotune system. 2. The approach has been armed by the pilot by pressing the APP button. 3. The lateral deviation of the localizer in preview mode is less than 1 dot. And now aircraft automatically changed the nav source to NAV1, and it's now flying the ILS approach. Okay, we can set the flaps to 10. The aircraft will automatically reduce its speed to 180 knots. You can adjust this speed in the departure and arrival speed section on the Perf Init page if needed. We can now select flaps to 20 and select landing gear down. At this stage, we can activate the warning inhibit and arm the ground spoilers. Let's set flaps to 39, and we are ready for landing. And we've landed at Budapest Airport. Despite the challenging weather conditions during today's flight, we managed to make a successful landing. Thank you for watching. I hope I was able to help and show you how to properly fly the GLF550 aircraft from AKD Studio. Thank you all for supporting AKD Studio. I am truly grateful. Take care and see you in the next video.